Hi guys, this is Zero Budget Geek and welcome to another hero guide for Sentinels of the Multiverse. Today we will be looking at the main superhero, Legacy. They say main because he's the one pretty much on the cover of the box, and his role in the game is pretty much the leader of the pack. So let's just jump right in to see what he does. So you're gonna see his first thing. Let's take a look at his base power. His base power is Galvanize. This will increase all the damage that hero targets deal by 1. This is probably the most powerful power in the game, and this is better than him dealing damage. One of the things about Legacy is he won't be dealing a lot of damage throughout the game, maybe in the later half if you're playing him right, but for the most part he's all about improving the other players. All the other characters are better because of him, make no mistake of that. And this Galvanize is probably stronger than any one attack power the other players have, because it increases the damage of all the hero targets. So if you're in a 5 hero game, you play this card and play this power rather, and let's say all of them do at least attack once, that's 4 extra damage you did on the turn, and if they do more than that, then it compounds more. So definitely a very powerful ability, and you want to use that as often as possible. Let's look at his cards. So like I said, he doesn't really jump into the fray, but when he does, he can do it with a lot of damage. Here's one of his attacking one-shots. Play this card, do 4 melee damage to a single target. Pretty simple. Bolster Allies. You want to play this card and it'll let all the players draw a card, including Legacy himself. So you want to push this out as soon as possible. The more cards the heroes have in their hands, the more options they have to do things. Danger Sense, not immediate card you want to play, but it's good to get out there. This lets Legacy be immune to damage from environment cards, and coupled with some of the cards that he can use to redirect damage to himself, this can be very useful. We go to Flying Smash. Now this is probably his best one-shot attack card. This will let you attack 3 targets for 3 melee damage each. So very useful way to do some spread but targeted damage. Let's see, Fortitude, a card, maybe not one of the first cards you put, but you want to get this card relatively soon in play. It reduces damage that Legacy receives by 1. And there's nothing to figure out there. Put it out and start taking less damage. Heroic Interception. You want to be careful with this card. Very powerful card. When you play this card, Legacy will deal himself 3 damage, but then he's going to make all the hero targets other than himself immune to damage until the start of his next turn. So if you foresee a bunch of damage coming to the heroes, you can use this to protect them. Just bear in mind that Legacy won't be immune to damage, so on top of taking 3 damage himself, he'll be susceptible to other damage. And you want to be careful that there's no damage buffs on Legacy, because he'll increase that 3 damage that he deals. So kind of a situational card, but can be very powerful nonetheless. Inspiring Presence, one of his best cards, and you want to get this out pretty close to as soon as possible. Basically, when you play this card, all the hero targets will receive 1 hit point, which is that's okay, it's a fringe benefit, but the most powerful thing about it is that increases all damage dealt by hero targets by 1. So that, together with his Galvanize, you're increasing all damage that the heroes do by 2, and that is a lot. Definitely get this card out very quickly. Lead from front. You want to be careful with this card. It can be useful, but it takes a little bit of setup. Basically, anytime a villain card will deal damage to a hero, you can redirect that damage to Legacy. Or if you have something like Fortitude, you can redirect it and then take less damage. Or you can couple that with the Danger Sense, and when the actually it won't work with the Danger Sense because it only specifically targets villain cards, but I'll show you a card that it does team with it, which is the Next Evolution. Next Evolution lets Legacy choose damage type, and he becomes immune to it until his next turn. So if you know something's gonna do, say, energy damage, you can use this to make him immune to energy damage, and then lead from the front to redirect that damage to himself. So it takes some setup to use this, but it can be very useful when you get it going. now this is my favorite attack card that Legacy has, Motivational Charge. It is an ongoing card, so it stays in play, but it is your power use for the turn. It lets you deal 1 target 2 melee damage, and all the heroes will gain 1 health. Now that 1 health is pretty nice, especially if you can do it turn after turn, but it definitely won't outpace the amount of damage that villains will be doing, but it can help you kind of stay afloat there. But I'm going to show you what this works best with, and that is the Legacy Ring. When you have the Legacy Ring in play, it lets you use an additional power during your turn. So when you have the Legacy Ring in play and this Motivational Charge, you'll be able to use your Galvanize here to increase the damage that hero targets do, and then use Motivational Charge to do an extra point of damage while healing your friends. So this is a very useful card, but really only best when paired with the Legacy Ring. We have Superhuman Durability. This is an okay card. It can be useful, but it is sort of situational. Whenever Legacy would take 5 or more damage from a single source, you reduce that damage by 3. So it can be useful, but there's not a whole lot of cards that do 5 or more damage in a single shot. But there are some. So but generally, when you see those cards come, you want to get rid of them before they do damage. So often that's what usually happens, and then this ends up not being that useful. But it can come into it can work out in a pinch. Surge of Strength. This is a late game card that you're only going to play this with Legacy if you have nothing else better to play. Increases damage that Legacy deals by 1. Now, as we've seen, Legacy isn't about dealing damage, so you don't really need to increase his damage. But later in the game, once you have all your ongoing cards and stuff set up, and then you start doing damage, then this will be useful then. Takedown. This is again another one of his situational cards. When you play this card until the next turn, basically the villain cards will not be able to the villain won't be able to play cards on their turn, and then Legacy will take 2 damage. So if you know something's bad coming, or if you just want to stall for time, this is useful, and it only costs you 2 damage, so it can be useful, but again, a situational card. And we already talked about the Legacy Ring, just many uses for having an additional power use during your turn. And then we have Thok, which is his last one-shot card that deals damage. But this is a nice one. It does 3 damage to 1 target, and it lets you draw a card. So almost a free card. Whenever I say almost a free card, because it still costs you the card draw and the card play for that turn, but you get to draw a card to replace it. So it's helpful to play this card to move through your deck, because you want to get that really the combo of having the Legacy Ring and the Motivational Charge out is just a really good combo that you want to get that out as soon as possible. One of the things to keep in mind about Legacy is that he cannot destroy environment or ongoing cards, so that is one of his weaknesses, and you need to be careful with cards that do that. When hero cards do self damage to themselves for whatever reason, you want to be careful, because Legacy boosts the damage they do, so you may end up causing heroes to do more damage to themselves than you really want to. But otherwise, he's a very great character, definitely a leader character, definitely a character that you need to pay attention to what's going on in play at any given time and play cards accordingly. But essentially, best thing you want to do is just play anything that's gonna help the other heroes. That will benefit the group more than any single attacks that Legacy can do. So that is the hero guide for Legacy, guys. Thanks for watching this video. Check the annotations and the YouTube cards to see more videos in this series, because we are covering all the hero cards and giving the strategy guides for all of them. So until next time, see you guys soon.